Alright, hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Brian Allen here with you, Freelance Illustrator. Um, so, the goal was to try to do one of these videos, live videos, every week, every Friday. And this is actually the first one that I'm doing all year. So, I haven't been very good about it. But people keep asking me to start doing them again, which I really appreciate. I'm going to try to find a way to maybe make time in the evenings or something for them because it's just been way too difficult. Every Friday seems to be like a project that needs to be done, and it's just chaos. So if you have any feedback on what nights and what time of the week would be good to do a live broadcast, let me know. So today I'm going to be drawing this pirate skull for a motorcycle decal wrap for Icon Motorsports. It's a really big job, and I'm super excited about it. And it needs to be like my best work. So this pirate skull here is just one part of it. And this is just going to go on the back of the helmet. There's a whole wrap that I can't show yet, but this is just a piece. So the other thing I wanted to share was that I just got the Wacom Cintiq Pro 24-inch. I've had it for about 2 weeks now, and it's amazing. It's perfect. It's exactly what I wanted, and I'm gonna have a review for that next week. I've filmed it all and took pictures and written it up. I just need to edit it and put it all together. So that'll be on my YouTube channel next week. All right, so let's get drawing. If anyone has any questions while I'm drawing, please go ahead and throw them my way. So I had already done the sketch for this skull, just a really quick sketch that the client approved. So I'm going to go back in now, and I'm still working in pencils. This isn't going to be the inks today. So I just want to make sure that I have a really clear grasp of the layout and the pose, and then start laying down some detail. Hey, Hutch, how you doing, man? I am good. How are you? So right now I'm using the HB pencil brush that I made in Clip Studio Paint. I like it because it's got like a little bit of tooth, but a lot of these other digital pencils out there, they have way too much texture and tooth to them. So I don't know. I don't draw that way. When I draw on paper, I usually use like ballpoint pens or just do a really rough pencil drawing and then go right to inks because I'm kind of too impatient for drawing, like doing the build up. So the Wacom Cintiq Pro, I was saying, is so amazing. I upgraded from the older model, the Cintiq 24-inch HD. I had that thing for like 7 years, and it's still going strong. It never the only problem it had was like the screen just sort of got a little dimmer over time, but you can't really notice it until you set it next to this thing. The thing that I noticed right away with this guy was that the new pressure sensitivity levels, which are double what they used to be, uh, just are amazing. I was hoping that I would be able to feel a difference, but it's incredible. I mean, it's really great. And the other thing that I noticed right away, which is also really great, is that there's almost no parallax anymore between the glass and the screen itself. If you've ever used one of the older Cintiqs, it wasn't too bad, but there was always this gap between the glass and the screen, and that's why I think a lot of people love the iPad Pro so much, is because there virtually was no gap at all. There was no parallax. Well, having used both the iPad Pro and this, like, I would say they're totally comparable now. Like, it feels like you're just drawing right on paper. So I love it. I love it. I tried my review that I'll be doing next week. I tried to keep it objective and not sound like a fanboy, but I end up probably sounding like a Wacom fanboy, even though I don't say it right. Wacom fanboy, because it's so good. Hey, John Condit asking me, is there haptic feedback at all? So I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. I mean, to me, haptic feedback would be like if you're using a keyboard on your phone and it kind of gives that little vibrate, right? Isn't that what that is? This is not touch at all. It's just the pen. And I prefer that, to be honest. It saves you a lot of money too. But the touch version actually isn't even out yet. I heard a lot of people who bought the Cintiq 27-inch, a lot of those people who paid more for the touch, there's a lot of reviews of this online, but a lot of those guys ended up just turning the touch off because it was so buggy, which kind of sucks because you pay an extra $400 for that privilege, I guess. But me personally, I don't. I find the touch actually a little distracting because I have a keypad that I use for all my shortcuts, and whenever I want to pan around, I just program one of the buttons here to do that. So I really don't need it. I don't know. Was that what you meant? Maybe you could clarify a little bit. Oh, and the stylus. So the stylus doesn't vibrate or anything, but there is a tiny bit of give, just a little bit with the nib. Like if you push down, the nib goes in just the tiniest amount, and that's actually something I really like compared to the Apple Pencil. I like the Apple Pencil. It's just I'm so used to using this, I think, that I always prefer this. But the Apple Pencil, has no give. It's just it's a piece of plastic, and I keep feeling like I'm just hammering a piece of plastic against a screen. Like when you draw with a pencil on paper, there's a little bit of give there because your pencil is pushing into the desk or it's pushing into the sketch pad just a little bit. So I don't know. I'm used to that and I like it. So I want to just work symmetrically just for a little bit, just to get the proportions right, and then I'm going to turn that off so I can start messing with the two different sides. Now this skull probably isn't going to be printed very big. It's probably only going to be maybe 4 inches tall. So I don't want to get crazy with detail. I need to keep it pretty graphic looking. Hey, John Condit asking me what glove am I using. There's a company called Smudge Guard that makes. Look, check out this. Check out what a vagabond I am. I've been wearing this glove into the ground. This thing is gross. So I'm definitely due for a new one. But this thing lasted probably like 3 years of heavy use. It smells nasty too, guys. That's probably TMI, but it smells like a gym sock. Anyway, I highly recommend them. It's just a small business. Like, I talked to the lady, she just sews them herself. But they're the best that I've used. I tried out a couple different brands. Hey, Mr. Tom Martin, how are you? Hey, Randy, how's it going, man? My friend Randy here is asking me if there's a noticeable difference. I was just saying earlier that there's a huge noticeable difference. The thing is, I'm upgrading from the 24 inch, and I know you had the 27 inch. I thought so. I couldn't tell you like what quality difference you'd expect from the 27 inch. I'm only going on the 24. But I love it so far. I think they really did a lot of good things here. The only drawback is that it doesn't come with the stand. And I talk about that in my review a little bit. I really think that was a shame. I like that they did make the option that you could buy it without the stand if that's what you want to do. But the stand itself is not available for purchase, and who knows when it will be, right? So right now I just got it propped up on a bunch of books, like a Jimbroni here, and it's not very stylish. I missed the stand on the 24 inch. That thing was great. But I guess if you didn't want the stand, it is nice because that saves you $400, you know. Hey, Gizmo's asking me, you streaming 2 times. Do you mean like streaming on 2 different channels, on 2 different YouTube channels, or what do you mean? Um, if you could clarify, that'd be cool. And Gizmo Pug Life asking me, any tips for some who draw like crap to improve? Well, let me ask you this: how long have you been? How old are you, and how long you've been drawing? Because that would change my answer a lot. But I think the thing that I still struggle with every day is just is anatomy. So if I would recommend, and I'm just parroting what other artists have told me, but I would recommend going to live drawing classes. That really helps. Get some anatomy books and just sit down and just just draw straight from them, you know? And then once you think you've got that figured out, then maybe start drawing from them, but change the character to the kind of style you like, you know? Or try to experiment in a bunch of different styles. One thing that I see, like I've interviewed a lot of interns and things like that, so I've seen a lot of portfolios at an earlier level. One thing that I see a lot is that young artists usually, and I was the same way, young artists usually have that one thing that they draw really well, and then they will just draw that to death, right? I still do it, actually. Here I am drawing a skull. But I usually save the easy stuff for these live broadcasts because I'm nervous, you know. But what I would do is try to really break yourself out of the comfort area by drawing as many different things as you can. You know, if you've never drawn a landscape, go draw a landscape. If you've never drawn still life, you know, which you would do in art class, just go set up some of those every once in a while. Also, especially when you first start, there's nothing wrong with copying other artists' work. of course, with the huge caveat that if you ever publish it, like on social media, you better make damn sure that you credit the artist and you tell people what's up. I just busted a tattoo artist the other day for stealing my work and a bunch of other artists' work, claiming it was his own. Nothing sadder than that. But what you can do is just sit down, pick out the artists you love, and just try to sit down and draw one of their pieces, because you learn so much from doing that. Because what they're doing with their drawing is they're solving problems, you know. They're doing the problem solving, and you might as well let them solve all the problems for you. They've spent a lot of time to work those things out, you know. Oh, okay. So Gizmo, you're saying you're 19. So you got a lot of time, man. I would just one thing to watch out for is that because you're young and you don't have kids and you don't have probably as many bills to pay, this is the time when you can really explore and just really work on your own portfolio. I wouldn't worry so much about trying to get freelance work or do things. Of course, I don't know what your situation is. Everybody needs cash, but I wish that I had done that. I wish I had worked more on my own artwork and style, because I look back in time, I did a lot of heinous stuff. I did a lot of crappy websites. I did a lot of crappy business cards for banks and whatever. And I guess you learn from all those experiences. But most of the stuff that really started getting me work was the stuff the personal work, you know, the stuff that I did on the weekends or in the evening, the stuff I really cared about. So I kind of had it backwards. Yeah, so John Condit, that's a good point. It's like when you take an art class, it's sort of like going to the gym versus just going for a walk. You know, if you go to the gym with a trainer, they're gonna make you hurt. They're gonna make you do some stuff. And I'm saying this from what I've heard. I've never gone to the gym, but if you're going for a walk, it's fun, it's leisurely, but you're really not gonna get buff, right? You got to go and meet with the trainer and do the program and kind of hate it a little bit to actually really learn something, if that makes sense. Hey, Mike, how are you, buddy? Hey, Peter, what's up? Peter Underhill, I love your work, man. And thanks for all your help. I wanted to, if nobody has any questions right now, I wanted to share something real quick. I recently just copyrighted a bunch of my artwork with the government for the first time. Um, it was super easy. So basically, let me start off by saying that, of course, I'm not a lawyer. So this is just don't take this as legal advice, all right? But most of us know that anytime you do any piece of artwork or write an article or take a photo, like, the artist owns it right away. You don't have to copyright it. You don't have to, mail it in an envelope to yourself. It's just copywritten, period, right? The problem with that, though, is that if you want to actually sue somebody, and I don't want to, but someday I may need to, unless you've actually copywritten it with the government officially, most lawyers are not going to take your case, because it's easy, well, not easy, but you can sue somebody to get them to take down your artwork, right? But if you want to actually sue them for damages, meaning like they're going to have to pay you as a penalty, then a lawyer is going to need that official document, that official copyright registration with the government. All right? They won't touch your case unless you got it. The problem is that for every piece of work you copyright, it costs $35. And if you are, like I do probably, oh God, man, I don't know, 200 plus pieces of artwork a year, probably more than that. So that would add up really quick. Well, I found out that all you have to do, as long as the work is unpublished, is you just go to the website, the copyrightoffice.gov, and you can copyright as many pieces of artwork in one go as you want and only pay $55 because you're registering them as a collection. And the collection, I talked to the guy at the Copyright Office because I wanted to clarify all this. But the collection does not even have to be related in any way. The only stipulation is that the artwork has to be unpublished first when you do this. So it's important to basically do it as quickly as you can, or definitely before you post it in your website, or give it to your client. Well, not give it to your client, but have them start selling it. Okay. So what I got now, the whole process only took me maybe 15 minutes, and I copyrighted a whole batch of like 30 images at once. And now what I'm going to do is probably do that like 3 times a year. And hopefully I'll never need to take anybody to court, because I can't even imagine what a nightmare that is. But I just figure if I do something and then decades from now I'm 60 and some big company digs something up of mine and starts stealing it, like, I'm going to be pretty thankful that I did that little process. Hey, whoop-de-frickin-do. I love when you join, just so I can say your name. I appreciate your compliment. The expressive brush is one of my favorites too. Hey, Roberto, how are you? How are you, buddy? I've said this before, and I'm sorry I haven't been able to get it together, but you and we've got to figure out a way that we can do this together and like ask each other questions and whatever. That would be great. I just can't figure out how to get the audio, to work, or how to do it so that we can share screens and kind of trade back and forth, But I think I'm getting close. Because I thought that would be really cool to, like, every week or so just have a chat with a different artist, bring people on and just sort of learn about their process and joke around a little bit. Maybe even whine and bitch a little. Guy stuff. Hey, John, thanks for that. So Mixer, he's saying I should check out Mixer for co-streaming. I'll have to check that out. Right now I'm using OBS, and with OBS I'm using a website called Restream, which the whole point of that is it helps me stream to YouTube and Facebook at the same time, which is great because a lot of people, it seems to be like most people actually watch me on Facebook versus they'll watch me live on Facebook, but then on YouTube people watch the video later after it was streamed, if that makes sense. So Gizmo, you're asking a question. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read it. Some things are mistyped. Will I be able to use? I'm not familiar with that artist, but somebody's songs in my videos, or should I stay away because he did copyright them, but sadly he passed away? Yeah, I'm gonna repeat. I'm not a lawyer. I just draw pictures for a living. But I always tell people, if you don't know for a fact that it's okay to use what you're using, then don't use it. I have so many people call me from print shops or whatever, and they say that they used my artwork because they found it on Google and they didn't know it was mine. They didn't know it was illegal. And it's like, well, okay, you didn't know. First of all, all right, I'm gonna call bullshit on that. Okay, it's not that you didn't know; it's that you didn't care, right? So don't use anything unless you have explicit permission to use it, or if it clearly says that this is fair use, this is public domain, that kind of thing. Because there can be huge, serious consequences, man. I mean, who was that? There was that Obey artist. What's his name? Is it Richard Ferry? I don't think it's Richard. It's Ferry something, right? Well, he's a big deal, but he got sued big time, and he's probably still fine. He's probably, he probably only has 100 million instead of 200 million, but I know he got sued pretty seriously for copyright infringement. So you gotta watch out. What? Now I'm getting shit for not knowing a VC. I haven't changed my musical taste since 1989. I listen to Iron Maiden, and then covers of Iron Maiden. That's pretty much it. So don't come to me looking for musical taste. So Jason Robinson asking me how I'm able to mirror my drawing lines in real time. Uh, it's simple. It's Clip Studio Paint. So there's a symmetry guide here that I threw right down the middle, and I can easily turn it on and off. So now I can draw symmetrically or not symmetrically, and it's awesome. What I'll do sometimes, if like a client has a lower budget, but they still need something and I'd love to work with them, like I kind of pitch them a symmetrical design because, hey, it's half the time, right? Alright, I should have done this a while ago, but I'm going to turn off that blue line. Yeah, and if you don't have Clip Studio Paint, like, I highly recommend it. It's amazing. Although I know Photoshop now has the symmetry tool in it too, but it's kind of a bummer because it doesn't. It only mirrors some tools. So it won't mirror like the lasso tool, which I use all the time. It doesn't do like I think it does the eraser. I don't know. So I don't know. It's like they finally figured it out, but not all the way. Hey, Sergio, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. You're asking me if I've ever worked on freelance websites like Upwork or Freelancer. Um, I I've had a listing on those sites for a long time because every once in a while there will be people who contact me from those sites who are actually worth it. But the problem with those sites is that they really are. I think Will Terry, an artist I really like, coined it as like a race to the bottom, right? Because you are publicly bidding against other people, it's just making art. It's making it like a commodity rather than the way it really should work. Is that people find your work and can identify it with it and really love it, and then they call you not because they need a designer, but because they need you, right? Like they want your artwork, and that gives you such a huge advantage. If I were to go on those sites and try to bid the prices that I'm charging people who contact me directly, people would laugh. It just would look ridiculous because I've seen people on there doing logos for like $100 and stuff, and it's kind of a shame. Upwork, I think, is more serious. I think I remember I got a job with Scholastic actually through Upwork long time ago, and that was a big deal. But unfortunately, because of my horrendously bad luck, after I was hired and just before I started the project, the art director was fired and the whole project was canceled. So I never even got to start. I got my start money though. That was cool. Nothing like getting paid to almost do something. Anyway, so if you were gonna start on those sites, I would check out Artwork or Upwork. You said Freelancer, I know, is really bad. That is notorious for just like the bottom of the bottom. And I don't think there's any problem with having a listing on there. You just have to go into it understanding that. Be very wary, right? Everybody you work with on that site, you must charge them half up front. Must. In fact, there's a really talented artist named Kate, or I shouldn't use her name, but she works with me, and she just got screwed over big time by somebody on Freelancer. And I feel really bad because she's trying to do all the right things and stuff. But well, anyway, I shouldn't share her story. Just be careful. Yeah, hey Carl, I don't know that Facebook Live is technically better than YouTube Live. I think it's just that I think YouTube has so many videos, mine get lost really fast, whereas on Facebook there's probably less people doing Facebook Live, artists anyway, so maybe it just pops up quicker. I don't know. Hey, and if I missed any, I love that you guys are asking questions. I really appreciate it. If I missed any, please feel free to ask again because the comment feed moves really fast. So a good question here. If I use references while drawing, yes, I definitely do. Right now, I'm looking at. Here, I'll show you. I'm looking at this cool model skull that I got from Amazon. My kids colored all over it. But I think reference is really important, and I think I've heard some younger artists kind of like thumb their nose at it, saying that I don't even use reference or I don't need it. Well, that's silly. All the masters used reference. I don't. There's nothing wrong with it, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier, where it's easy to get too comfortable just drawing the same thing that you draw over and over again. When you're using reference, you often find little things that you can throw into your drawing that make it more authentic. I find that especially with clothes. Like if I don't look at reference for, say I'm drawing a teenager and I don't look at some pictures of teenagers, they end up all just wearing jeans and a t-shirt and a freaking backpack, right? So if I was going to ask, what would be a good time to do these live videos where you think you'd be most likely to be able to watch them? Because I'm finding that like Friday afternoons is really hard. I thought it would be the best time of the week, but I don't think so. So I'm kind of thinking about, well, maybe I should do it in the evening, like after my kids go to bed. I don't know. So that would probably be like 8:30 p.m. Eastern, maybe a Wednesday night or something like that. If anyone has any suggestions, let me know. This is a good question here. So, question, when doing things for reproductions on shirts and stuff, are pencil tools effective? Because I'm always using the vector layer with the inks to try to get smoother lines, but I lose the texture. So, right now, I'm using just pencil brushes, and this is going to be a full color illustration, not silk screened. But if I was going to be doing a silk screen shirt, I would have to ink this, and I still will ink this. But you can do pencil lines, right, with texture. What I would recommend using is the textured pen brush in Clip Studio Paint. Just make sure that this like anti-alias button is on none, and it'll give you that little texture, but it will still be the 100% edge instead of like these weird feathered pixel edges, you know? And you should be able to get away with that. Really, the reason you need such clean, smooth lines is that you're trying to trap the colors underneath the line art. You know, that's why line art is so important in t-shirts. But I hear what you're saying. Like I often like my pencil drawings a lot more than the ink drawings for that reason, because if you're not careful, it can look too computery and smooth. But even if you're using a smooth ink pen, you can get away with a lot by just loosening things up a little bit. You know, so instead of trying to make these like perfect arcing strokes, like instead go through and just draw the way you would with a pencil, just be a little more choppier and rough. I don't know much longer. I think I'm probably going to wrap this up actually. But I'm going to have a Wacom review of the new Cintiq Pro 24-inch next week. I've already got it filmed and everything. Just got to edit it together. So if anybody has any questions about that I haven't answered, just please leave them in the comments, and I'll try to include that in the video. Let's see. Any last questions here? Let's see. Any tips for inking practice? I find my lines are not clean, and I don't want to use stabilization as a crutch. Yeah, I don't like the stabilization feature either, because what it does is it takes the control away from you. It takes the style out of it, right? But you still have to have, let's see, what do I normally turn it on? Like if you look here, I usually have it at around a 10 on a scale of 100, right? Because, let's see. So you can have that stabilization on and it doesn't really affect your line at all, but it keeps it a little clean. See, if you don't have the stabilization, it does make it a little harder to draw long, straight strokes, right? As far as advice and tips, study other people's work, and just I'm gonna say it, just lots and lots of practice. There's some books out there on inking that you can get. There's one great one. I'm drawing a blank, but it's made by DC Artist, I think. It's really good. One thing that I hear a lot is don't trace your pencils. What that means is basically you want to use your pencils as a guide, but still attack your ink drawing as if you're drawing it for the first time. If you sit there and try to trace every stroke and shape, you lose the organic look of it, and it just everything falls apart. So that's one thing. Let's see. Yeah, thanks, Mike, for putting me and Beast Pop in the same sentence. I'll take that. Roberto, this is a great question. Let me get to that second. Roberto asked me best tips for marketing yourself to get new clients, and also what's my favorite studio snack. Favorite studio snack is pistachios. I usually have like a giant tin of them here, and I'll just eat them until I'm sick. It's pathetic. Best ways to market to new clients. So we do so many things, and it's difficult to know which things work exactly. I just know that something is working, so I just keep doing those things, right? But the one problem is that some of the things that have worked for us in the past, like for example, Behance. I don't know if you're familiar with Behance. That used to work pretty well for us. I would post something and it would get tons and tons of views, and people would email me from Behance. Now, ever since Adobe took that thing over, I think there's just so many artists on it. We'll post work that is better than my older work, but it gets hardly any views. And the only people who contact us through Behance anymore are from other like poorer countries, and I don't understand why exactly. But I get a lot from Brazil. I get a lot from not Portugal. Portugal's okay. There's another one of those. And they're looking for T-shirt designs for $150 a piece or something like that. Usually, sometimes less. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that I would recommend doing like a million little things, because you never know what's going to work, and you never know what's all of a sudden going to dry up, right? I try to just blanket my work everywhere, which might be annoying to people who are familiar with my artwork and maybe sick of seeing it. It's also a little risky because I get my artwork stolen a lot. But it really helps, because some of the biggest jobs I've ever had have just been like not through bidding on a job or not through reaching out to a client, but because they found something of mine on Google that was just perfect for what they needed, right? And that's what makes it so hard to get freelance jobs. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't, but it's so easy for an art director to just find the exact style and content that they want that there's really no reason to work with the same artist over and over again. Probably used to be that way, where you'd like get a couple art directors and you guys were buddies, and they just fed you work over and over again. Well, now there's really no reason to do that because all you got to do is put, vectory vintage artist into Google, and they'll find somebody who has the exact style and content that they want. So you got to make sure that you're there for them to find, right? Man, that's probably a terrible answer. Yeah, and Randy recommending hire an illustrator. That's a good website to be on. Jimmy telling me to make more Vikings. All right, you're the boss. And all right, I'm sorry. One last question, then I got to get rolling. But Saeed asking me, how do you choose your color palettes? I actually struggle with that a lot. I've always been like a black and white artist, but as a freelancer, if you're just doing things in black and white, you're limiting yourself big time. So I keep a folder on my computer with like just tons of different color. Whenever I see an artist do a cool color scheme that I like, I'll save it in there. I have a folder for like limited color schemes because a lot of times I'll have to do something that's only uses 4 colors or 3 even, and that's really challenging. It's a lot harder than you'd think. So what I'll do is I'll save that in a folder, check them out when it's time, and then what I normally do is just I'll take my illustration and set a multiply layer and just experiment with colors. I'll throw like maybe a pale yellow over the skull, see how that looks. What would it look like if it was a little greener? What would it look like if this was blue? And I don't worry about coloring inside the lines. I just throw color at it. And then when I'm done with that, I just take a screenshot and use that as my palette, if that makes sense. As I found it's a lot easier if I'm sitting there trying to like go inside the lines or use my selections and things like that. It slows down the process too much. Like you got to be able to experiment. And anytime you see something you like, just save it and then start over again, rather than tweaking the same thing. So I might do a really quick like 3-minute version of a green skull, and then I'll do a quick 3-minute version of like a blue skull, and then see which one I like better. Sorry, and Carl, one last question about should I use Adobe Illustrator just to learn how lines are meant to be? I would say no, because the problem with Adobe Illustrator is that it's a vector problem, so it's smoothing out every line that you throw. And there are, of course, incredible artists who use Adobe Illustrator, so I'm not knocking that program, but what I'm saying is you might become too dependent on that. Like, here's an example. There's a couple girls who have the iPad Pro, and they use Procreate they do this like cursive-y drawing stuff. Like they do hand lettering, right? And they have like 500,000 followers, and people love watching their stuff, and good for them for figuring that out. But when you're using Procreate, like you could turn the smooth tool up so much that like it's really not hard to do what they're doing, but it looks neat to watch, right? Compare that to like the old school hand letterers who had to draw like pinstriping straight on a car or onto a store window. I mean, it's incredible. So what I would suggest is not working digitally at all even, but going and buying a brush and an ink jar and just drawing. What you can do is print out even some cursive letters, print out find like a comic book inker that you love, print that out in like blue line, and then just try to ink over top of it and see what it takes to copy those lines and see what it takes to control each type of line. That's what I would suggest anyway. All right, great. Well, thanks everybody for watching. I'm going to try to do these live videos more, maybe in the evenings, to try to figure out a time that works better. If anybody has any questions about the Wacom Cintiq Pro, please send them my way, and I'll try to add them to my review Thanks again.